Hi, this is Joe Rubinstein, and you're listening to the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.
Greetings, Cap fans, and welcome to episode 58 of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. I'm your host, Rick Verbanis, and as always, I am joined by the best gosh darn co-host out there. That is Mr. Bob Lucius. Bob. Bonjour, mon ami.
Oh, bravo. Just bravo. Bravo, Rick. So well done.
Oh, and is bravo the correct
no,
response to that?
Who the hell knows? I don't know. I guess, I don't know. Italian,
Bravo
French? I don't know. They're all Romance languages.
That's true. Yeah. It all goes back to Latin.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Well done.
Well, thank you. And, you know, I figured I'm going to be doing a lot of French in this episode as I am going to be doing Batroc de l'Hyper.
Oh, yes.
And so I never took French, Bob. I never took French. Did you take French?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, I grew up in the Northeast, and we have a lot of, very big French Canadian population up in the Northeast, Lowell, Massachusetts, that area. And so it was required in schools when I was elementary, secondary school. So yeah, I had a lot of French. Don't remember any. I can order a ham and cheese sandwich, maybe.
Nice.
If there's not too much pressure on me, but that's about it, man.
Is it a ham and Munster? I don't know. What's the French type of cheese? Oh, brie. Or is it a ham and brie?
Brie. No, I can't. Not. No, it's a In fact, you don't even say ham and cheese, right? It's what is it? Je voudrais un croque monsieur. I would like that means a croque. A croque is like a ham and cheese sandwich. So it's not, you're not even saying ham and cheese. You're just saying the name of the type of sandwich that you want. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. All right. Yeah. Well, you're going to have to keep me honest here with my French pronunciations. I tried to do my best with a little bit of research that going on the websites, and we're typing in this and how do you pronounce this, and they're like, no. So I was like, oh, okay, thanks.
It's a lot of pressure, Rick. I understand you got a lot of pressure on you because I know there's a lot of international men of mystery in our audience, and so they're not hesitant, shy about calling you out on these things.
Well, it's fine. Because I am looking right now at our geographic location as far as the people who listen to us. Did you know, Bob, 100% of our listeners, planet Earth?
Wow.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, if I was to break it down a little bit more, 78% in the United States. So that means 22% of our listeners, Bob, are outside of the U.S. I'm not a math major, but I just did that real quick.
I know. I noticed how you did that off the top of your head. I was like, what?
I know.
I have somebody to do my taxes now.
No. So now I'm on here. Now we do have our next highest from the United States coming in at 6% is Canada. So I'm sure there's a few people from Canada that might be listening in and saying, all right, Rick, not bad, or you could do better, or wow, you really murdered that. Yeah. But as I look down into how many of our listeners are actually from France, we have some listeners from France, but it's less than 1%. So I don't know. That could mean we have one listener from France. It could mean we have 5. I don't know. But we do have plenty from Canada.
Yeah. Well, what do you know? Captain Canuck, is a Canadian export, I believe.
It's true.
Yeah, I remember picking that one up off the rack back in the day. I was a big Captain America fan, and then one day I go and I see Captain Canuck sitting there.
Well, speaking of Canada, this kind of comes back to what we're covering today, because this is going to be Captain America 251 and 252. And you may ask, what does that have to do with Canada? Well, it doesn't. But, the artist on this series, Mr. John Byrne. And one thing about John Byrne, he created the superhero group Alpha Flight.
That's right.
Which is the Canadian superhero group. And so on right now, which is, these two issues of Captain America we're covering have a cover date of November and December of 1980. Guess what was happening else during that same time that John Byrne was working on?
What, pray tell?
Uncanny X-Men. And so the Uncanny X-Men with cover dates of November, December, same time as these books were coming out, were Uncanny X-Men 139 and 140, which happened to co-star Alpha Flight. How's that for a coinky-dink?
That's pretty amazing. So he was a busy guy.
He really was, because earlier in 1980, he actually was doing art for Fantastic Four. He's a super busy guy. And that issue of Uncanny X-Men 139, I think most Marvel fans of a certain age would remember. It's the cover that has Kitty Pryde on it and says, "Welcome to the X-Men, Kitty Pryde.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hope you survive the experience." Which that issue was the first appearance of Heather Hudson, who is Mac Hudson's wife, who was Vindicator, the leader of Alpha Flight. Then she became the leader of Alpha Flight. Anyway, that I just thought that was interesting, right? So we had these Canadian superheroes going on at the same time.
It's funny. At around this time, I was hanging out with my good friends, and I remember they were like super into X-Men, and I wasn't the least bit interested in X-Men because I was and remain just a Cap guy. Yeah, and I'm like, what? Why don't you like Cap? What's wrong with you? And they're like, but it's X-Men. And I'm like, but Cap. And I felt so lonely.
Oh,
but here we are.
Yeah. You weren't alone. No. There was a lot of Cap fans back in the earlier days, in the 70s and 80s, and even heck in the 90s. Cap wasn't cool.
Yeah, right.
Cap was not cool. And I remember one of my best friend who read comics at the time. He was into the X-Men. Mm-hmm. He was into Wolverine. I was his favorite character. Yep. And I was almost like, I didn't pick up any X-Men books. I didn't pick up any Spider-Man books. And it was almost like I was rebelling. I was like, those are popular and everybody's falling into that. I'm going for these characters, which was Captain America and Daredevil and that type of thing. Eventually, I started picking up X-Men and wish I had done it earlier during, Claremont and Byrne's heyday. But eventually I got those and I read them.
Yeah. Maybe someday I will.
Yeah. Well, Bob, remember our contest?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm looking at my coin right here, which is, I don't know if you can hear this.
Wow.
That's a solid coin right there, my friend. This is the What Would Cap Do coin that Bob and I created, just special for our supporters of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Facebook group and podcast series. And so we wanted to, reward our patrons and our supporters. And so this is a really cool coin. One side, you got the Captain America shield. The other side, it says, "What would Cap do?" And then you have 4 adjectives on an outer rim on either side that talk about the attributes that we all strive for, we all look up to in our favorite character. And it's something that we can carry around and look at and hold on to or display, or if we really are so inclined, pass along. And so, if you are a patron and you are at a Shield Slinger level or higher, and you've been there for over 3 months, we will automatically just give you this coin as our way of saying thank you. But we felt, hey, let's open this up. Right? I mean, and by the way, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, Bob. These are limited to 100 coins. We made
that's it.
100 coins. Yeah. That's it. When they're gone, they're gone. And so we said, all right, what else can we do here? So if you go to Apple Podcasts and you leave us a 5-star review with a comment, once we get the next 10 people to do this, we're just going to randomly pick 3 out of those 10 and give them this coin. So we got another response. Bob, you want to hear it?
I do.
All right. So this one comes from the initials are, looks like KDF021, and gave us a 5-star review. The title says, "Great fun show about Cap!" And KDF says, "I am a long time, 40 years, reader of comics and an equally long time fan of Captain America. Rick and Bob are extremely knowledgeable about Cap, but more importantly, they understand what Steve Rogers and the mantle of Captain America mean and stand for. They celebrate the character and the spirit of the character in every show. It's a pleasure to listen to."
Wow.
Well, thank you, KDF. We appreciate that. And you are entered into the contest. And if you would like to also be entered in the contest, you can just go to Apple Podcasts on iTunes and give us a 5-star review, and you'll be entered. And maybe we'll read it here on the show.
That's great. I mean, I'd love to hear that, Rick, because, I would never claim in a million years to be, a Captain America expert. But one thing I will claim to be is a guy who loves Captain America and loves talking about Captain America, loves reading about Captain America, loves just joshing about Captain America. And that's what this show's all about, man. It's just about having fun.
I agree. Yep. And I couldn't ask for a better partner. So let's get to Captain America 251. Now, so on the cover here, it's a pretty striking cover. And, gotta love John Byrne's art, right? I mean, he is a master. And quite frankly, back in 1980, he was, in his heyday. And so he and Roger Stern, who is the writer, joined Captain America with issue 247. And that was beginning of 1980, right? And they were on for a short run, right? It was less than a year, unfortunately. We did cover the first story arc, which was 3 issues, 247 through 249. And it was the Machine Smith was the villain. It had Dragon Man. It was a really, really cool 3-parter. We covered that very early in our podcast series, which was episode 7. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that, go back and listen to episode 7, and you'll be able to catch the 3 issues that were leading up to this story. We're skipping issue 250, which is the issue. It's a standalone issue where Cap is asked to run for president of the United States. We'll get to it. We'll get to it one of these days, but we wanted to really do this 2-parter here. So on the cover, we have the Captain America logo is the red, white, and blue. And then the corner box icon is Cap with his shield running, and it's done by John Byrne. And so we have basically in the rest of the image, the 2/3 below that, we have Captain America over top and holding, it looks like an unconscious Batroc de l'Hyper. And behind him is coming out of the shadows this humongous being. I mean, kind of reminds me a little bit of Solomon Grundy with these big white hands and the white hair. And then that's the only thing you see. Everything else is dark in the shadows, but you do see his white eyes and you see his white teeth. And he has a grim grin on his face, very menacing. And he's coming up behind an unsuspecting Captain America. And the title of it says The Mercenary and the Madman. So we open up, and by the way, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, we already said it was by Roger Stern, writer, John Byrne, penciler. The inker during this run is one legendary inker, Joseph Rubinstein, and he had some really interesting stories to talk about his time working with John Byrne. If you want to hear that, and I really think you do, go back and listen to episode number 8. And that is when we interview Joe Rubinstein regarding his time on Captain America. He was a bit of a hoot to talk to.
Yes, he was. And he didn't hold back at all, which is always refreshing.
Yes. He had some, let's just say, interesting comments and thoughts about John Byrne.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's the inker. And then we have Jim Novak, the letterer, Bob Sharon, the colorist. Now, here I go again, Bob.
Yep.
We had a great conversation with Bob Sharon. I didn't know what a colorist really did.
Yeah.
As I didn't know the details. And Bob is a legendary colorist who basically, from the late 70s to the 90s, if you read a Marvel comic, chances are he was the colorist. The man was a legend. We had a conversation with him back in episode 5, if anybody wants to listen to that. The editor is Jim Salicrup, and Jim Shooter is just listed here as the flag waver. Sunset, a time for solemn reflection. If your name is Captain America, those reflections cover countless miles and several decades. So we have Cap during dusk, right? And he's standing on a rooftop. He's got his knee up on the ledge and his shield on his back. And he's thinking, incredible. Sometimes I can hardly believe how New York has changed since I grew up here in the 1930s. So much of my life seems like some sort of amazing dream. But in my heart, I know that the greatest dream still lies ahead. And the caption says, the dream begins now. And it's a little arrow to turn the page. So Cap goes on, and we're going to get a little flashback here, Bob. We're going to get a flashback of the origin that Stern and Byrne feel like they want to get into here. So ever since how would the Beast put it, got my head together, which was in issue 247, which we covered, my memories of growing up during the Great Depression have all come back to me so vividly. I was the original 98-pound weakling in those days, before I volunteered to be the guinea pig for Operation Rebirth and Dr. Erskine's serum transformed me into America's super soldier. I was proud to serve my country as Captain America. The preservation of freedom was an important duty during those dark days of World War II. Who could have guessed back then that a freak accident would throw me into suspended animation at war's end, that I'd spend several decades frozen in a block of ice, lost to most of the world? And then the next panel, we see Namor, the submariner, and he's yelling at some Eskimos that are all circled around a frozen iced figure. I might still be up there in the Arctic, a frozen figure worshipped by Eskimos, if it hadn't been for one man. Hear me, humans. This is no helpless totem you see before you. This is the Submariner, who has sworn vengeance upon the entire human race. It is the dreaded Namor, the legendary one. Run, you weak, helpless mortals. Flee in terror before the rightful wrath of Namor. Thus shall all of mankind one day shriek in panic at the coming of the Submariner. If a terrified Eskimo hadn't stumbled into a U.S. weather station a few days later and blurted out the story, I might never have found out who was responsible for my resurrection. Take your accursed idol with you. Go, spread the word. Let the word know that Namor is still a force to be reckoned with. And he does. He hurls it as far as he can into the ocean. Somehow it seemed almost fitting that Namor, who had been my ally during the war, should be the one to free me, knowingly or not. I guess it was just luck that I floated into the warm waters of the Gulf Stream, where my icy prison slowly melted away. I drifted past an undersea craft manned by the Avengers. And we see Giant Man reaching out of the sub to grab him. I've got him. Who can he be? Why is he frozen solid? Look, Giant Man, beneath his tattered clothes, he wears some sort of colorful costume. Wait, don't you recognize it? It's the famous red, white, and blue garb of Captain America. The Wasp is right. Can this really be the famous shield of the once mighty crime fighter? Look at this, Thor. His face mask with the proud letter A on it. It must be him. If the Avengers were surprised to find me, they were even more surprised to discover that I was still alive. I owe them a lot. They let me join them, gave my life purpose. While I tried to adjust to the brave new world I found myself in. So this one particular panel on the page is John Byrne's little homage to Avengers number 4 cover. And then the next one, we see the Red Skull with a gun fighting Cap. Of course, I wasn't the only one to have survived the passing of decades. My oldest foe, the Red Skull, had also fallen into a state of suspended animation. When he finally awoke, our private war resumed, eventually affecting the lives of the new allies I had made, like Sam Wilson, the Falcon. Sam was a good friend and partner, but the day came when he had to go out on his own. And then there was Sharon Carter, certainly the loveliest S.H.I.E.L.D. agent I ever worked alongside with. We were close for such a short time in the big picture. Her death still hurts. She was the one true love in this second life of mine. I'll never forget her. All right, with next page, gotta tell you, if I could have a John Byrne Captain America original art page, this would be up there. This is a good one. You get to see Cap in almost every panel doing a bunch of acrobats flying around. But I can't spend the rest of my life in mourning. Sharon wouldn't want that, and it certainly wouldn't do me any good. No, Captain America has to go on living, and so does Steve Rogers, the man under the mask. Which reminds me, I have a pile of work waiting for me at home. It just won't do for a fledgling freelance artist to get behind in his deadlines. And so he takes the shield off his back and he jumps off. Without a second thought, the living legend hurtles over the side of the building, plummeting earthward without the slightest look of concern on his face. Somewhere around the 5th floor, he makes contact with the protruding flagpole and, just as he planned, thunk, Cap springs skyward again, an adjacent rooftop now, within easy reach. The ad agency wants those storyboards handed in tomorrow morning. Looks like another sleepless night ahead for me. Homeward bound, Cap pays little heed to the tug and barge which pass by on the river below. After all, he has a lot on his mind, and there's nothing at all out of ordinary about the barge and the tug. Or is there? So the next page, we get into what's going on inside the barge. Certainly, the tug's crew seem common enough, but their destination is something quite unusual. So the captain says, "We're closing fast on Rikers Island. Pass the word." Gotcha. Rikers Island, an isolated rock in the middle of Long Island Sound, and the home of a New York State penitentiary. Like the barge, the prison appears ordinary enough. However, some of its inmates are anything but ordinary. And as the tug draws nearer to the island, the activity of it on its deck becomes quite extraordinary. And so they take this blanket off of this satellite-looking dish kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
It's time. I'm Rap the Sapper. Man, this gizmo is something else. What kind of mind comes up with stuff like this? The kind of mind we're busting out of here. The Joe who designed this sucker is stuck on the inside. So it's only fair that we use his gear to get him out. And they turn it on. And it's almost like a spotlight, right? And it goes onto Rikers Island. The dish-like projector erupts with a blinding white glare, which almost instantly dissolves into the infrared end of the light spectrum, bathing the island in an eerie beam, which saps the power away from every electrical device in its field. And then on the next page, we see that the barge is coming right up to the dock. And as the island goes dark, the side of the barge suddenly opens up, discharging a small band of commando raiders. Come on, we don't have much time. Fan out and watch for guards. With a speed rivaling that of a crack special forces unit, the commandos pour through the prison perimeter. The night vision lenses on their masks, glistening weirdly in the darkness. What little opposition they meet is instantly silenced by a hail of bullets. And they're just firing away and killing the guards. Or a canister of sleep gas. Within seconds, they are halfway through the main building, heading towards the objective like an unstoppable juggernaut. Come on, it's just ahead. This guy won't give us any more trouble. The cell block is ours. Get the gear ready. And they just shot another guard. You're going up to cell block 8. Cell block 8, one of the most heavily fortified maximum security prison areas on the eastern seaboard. Here, the walls are 3 times the normal thickness, reinforced with slabs of aluminum steel. Here, each cell is especially designed to hold its occupant. And you see people at their doors trying to, like, with their grates, putting their hands through. What's going on? It's a break. Get me out of here. Take me. Shut up. We can only have time to spring one guy. And here he is. Sir, get on your bunk and cover your ears. 2 seconds tick by as a special bazooka is set up, and then fire. The rocket shell does not even pierce the massive cell door, but it does its job. And they break through the door. Sir, are you all right? Another inmate would have been knocked cold by the concussion shock, but not this man. This is the super criminal known as Mr. Hyde. And what a look on his face, Bob, right? He has that creepy, eerie smile, and he's looking up at the soldiers. Good. You came at last. The info the boss got was on the level. He must have given Hyde enough drugs to knock out an elephant. Figures he weighs about as much as one. No time to talk. There's only about a minute left before the sapper burns itself out. Minutes later, the power suddenly returns to Rikers Island. And amid the resultant pandemonium in the prison, no one notices the innocent-looking tug and barge which slowly pulls away. And that was pandemonium, Bob.
It was, Rick.
Yeah. And then we have Mr. Hyde laying on a leather-bound couch inside a suite, it looks like. But beneath the deceptive facade of the barge. Well, monsieur, I trust you are feeling better now, no? Yes. They kept me doped up for so long to prevent my escaping. It's a relief to stand on my own 2 feet again. This is quite an elaborate little floating headquarters you have here, but I would expect no less of Batroc the Leaper. Mais certainement, monsieur, and might I return the compliment? Your power sapper made engineering your escape child's play. A pity it had to burn out, as you warned us it would. Bah, it was just an experimental model. You found my hidden cache of equipment without any trouble then. Everything was in order? We found it all exactly as you left it, monsieur. The instructions you sent out via the prison grapevine, though in code, were clearer than clear to the great Batroc. Ah, let me introduce my, how you say, compagnon, Mademoiselle Monique. Hello, monsieur. How would you describe Monique, Bob?
Ooh la la. I believe that is the correct phraseology.
You don't disappoint. Thank you, Bob. Yeah, she's a striking woman. Long black hair and a long black dress, but there seems to be a little slit on the dress, Bob.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a wardrobe malfunction, as they would say in modern parlance. But back then, I think it was just coming out of the 70s, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and a little slit right up the side leg. Her English is not so good, I am afraid. Batroc, you impress me, and Hyde is impressed by few men. Your crew carried out my rescue with commendable dispatch. But of course, mon ami, after I learned through various sources you wished to escape, I had nearly a week to plan the breakout. Excusez-moi, Monsieur Hyde, but you would be more comfortable wearing your own attire, no? And she gives him some clothes, and he goes behind a little what do you call these things?
This is the changing screen.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually bought one of those when I lived in Indonesia. I thought it would be cool to have. I don't know why. I guess I saw one and said, "Hey, that would be cool to have." It was all carved out of teak, and I don't even know whatever happened to it.
Did you ever use it, Bob?
No, of course not. Yeah, I don't. What do you think? I go behind it to put on my smoking jacket? No,
Yeah.
I never used it. I don't know. It seemed like a good idea. I'm sure it's one more thing my wife sent over to Goodwill, when I wasn't looking. So
yeah. This is much better. I almost forgotten what it was like to wear something besides prison grays. I can well imagine. Now, about that $5 million you promised to whoever would engineer your freedom. Is it close by? Close by? Ha! It doesn't even exist yet. What? There's this big look of surprise on Batroc's face.
Indeed.
And then he turns around and he says, "Pig, you dare deceive the mighty Batroc?" Well, Mr. Hyde didn't really like the way he was being addressed right there. So he takes the changing
screen. Yeah.
And he just crunch destroys it. Do not use that tone of voice with me, Batroc. Mr. Hyde dares many things. Mine is a power which caused even the mighty Thor to tremble. And he goes to try to pound Batroc. But what does Batroc do?
Leap, leap.
That's right. He leaps. No, you're in trouble, aren't you?
I am. That was a bit too loud.
I doubt that, Hyde, just as I doubt that you can defeat what you cannot strike. And Batroc has not spent half of his career behind bars as you have. Now, let us see what good your power is against the master of the art of la savate. Ha! I've heard of this strange foot fighting. You people are a funny race. And Batroc just came up and just nailed him in the back of his head with both his feet. Nandajian, that blow would have left a normal man paralyzed for days. I am hardly a normal man, Batroc. And he grabs him by his foot and swings him. Mon Dieu, his speed is nearly the equal of my own. I would not have believed a man of such size could react so fast. You know, Bob, where have we heard that before? It seems to be like one of the biggest tropes in comics.
Uh-huh.
I never thought that
true enough.
That character so large could be that quick.
Right.
Like we've heard that a million times, right?
I guess you're right. Now that you mention it, yeah, you're right. Hey, big guys can be fast too, Rick.
I wouldn't know. Now listen to me, you Gallic fool. I could make good use of a small group of well-trained men. If you and your crew throw in with me, you'll have riches that'll make my offer of $5 million look like peanuts. I had not planned on any extended partnerships. But your argument is most convincing. If you would just let me down, I would be most interested in hearing any plans you might have. I knew you'd see it my way. Wait, is that the most recent copy of the Daily Bugle? Mais oui, it is today's edition. In that case, I think this headline story will provide us with all the information we'll need to become very wealthy men, and in less than 24 hours. And then Batroc thinks to himself, perhaps, but I shall be watching you very closely for each of those hours, monsieur. Time passes, and morning finally comes to the New York area. And to the one resident of the Brooklyn Heights apartment building, a full night of work is nearly over. And I got to tell you, one thing about Byrne, he is no slacker for attention to detail. You know?
True. Yeah.
I mean, look at that, just one panel on this page of this apartment building. And look at the detail that is put into the windows, the roofing, on top of the roof, the trees, the little fence.
Air conditioning unit. Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, this whole page is very detailed. Look at the carpet, that Mr. Hyde's standing on. Look at the door that is in Cap's apartment, in the cinder blocks. And I don't know, in the stuff you see on his table. And it's just, Byrne's just like such a master. And for that matter, so is Joe Rubinstein, I mean, the amount of work that he put in inking all these details. So Steve's thinking to himself, there, one more line and I'm done. Not a bad job if I do say so myself. Knock, knock. Anybody home? Come on in, Bernie. It's unlocked. So I noticed. You're a trusting soul, Steve Rogers. And so she has a bag of groceries in her hands. She's wearing a green jumpsuit. Now, let me guess. From the slight redness in your eyes and the wispy stubble on your chin, I'd say you've been up all night. You're too clever for me, Miss Rosenthal. You found me out again. And Steve was sitting at his art table, finishing up his assignment. In that case, I'm fixing you breakfast. Well, don't just stand there. Go shave or something. Go on, move it. And she's pushing him out the door. You wouldn't by any chance be related to a gentleman by the name of Duffy, would you? Who? Private joke. He was my old army sergeant. I never knew you were in the army. Were you in Nam? I was there briefly. Now, this is where I would like to see an editor's note.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Because I don't recall off the top of my head when he was in Nam. I know he was, but I don't remember what issue.
You don't remember what issue? Are you going to ask me what the issue is? Are you playing up? Are you playing?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Was it a Tales of Suspense 71? When I think it might have been 70 when he goes there, he rescues the pilot and he has to fight the Sumu.
I guess. But I think he was also, wasn't he in an annual? Didn't in an annual he go to Vietnam?
Oh, whew. I don't know. I don't remember that. But I do know in Tales of Suspense, he had a mission in Vietnam. It was one of the few missions, right? I mean, it was a big deal. Cap didn't go to Vietnam except for that one particular mission. General Cho.
No, it was Whoa.
Whoa, that's right. Whoa.
Remember? Whoa. I mean, come on, it was just a couple episodes ago.
I know. I'm getting older.
Yeah. Whoa. Actually, it wasn't even a couple of. It was last. Well, we did Tales of Suspense last episode, but then it was two before that, episode 55, where we did the Arena of Death.
Ah, yes, the Arena of Death. Yeah.
So Bernie starts going through Steve's kitchen to make him breakfast. She says, not briefly enough, I'll bet. My cousin was in the Mekong Delta for 6 months. Stephen Rogers, practically everything in your cupboard is instant something. Don't you ever eat real food? And then Steve's in the next room, shaving. Whenever I can. Problem is that, well, I'm on the go a lot, and I don't want to keep stuff around that'll spoil. you mind if I put on some music? No, go ahead. So she goes over to his turntable, right? 1980, man.
Yeah.
Goes over
Hi-fi.
Yeah, he's got the hi-fi, he's got the AM FM with the turntable and a bunch of records. She's like, what's this? Artie Shaw, Tommy Dorsey, Sinatra, Glenn Miller? Steve, you have the strangest taste in music. It's just like my father's. That's a mood killer right there. Really? Well, I know I don't have much in the way of records. I just keep the stuff I like. I think there are some Broadway show tunes in there somewhere.
What?
Oh, Steve.
Yeah. We're not talking the Rent soundtrack, right? Yeah.
I guess I don't know. What would be prior to 1980? I'm sure if I asked my son, he would tell me. I don't know.
I don't know what
Phantom of the Opera?
No, they would have had to have been
Oklahoma.
Yeah, Rodgers and Hammerstein.
right, like Oklahoma.
Yeah, things like that.
Hello, Dolly.
Hello, Dolly. Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
What was the one about baseball?
What was the one about baseball?
The one with the baseball where the devil makes a deal with the baseball team.
I can't remember that.
Damn Yankees.
Yeah, all right, damn Yankees. My favorite is 76 Trombones, right? Love that one.
All right. So she says, never mind, I'll just switch on the radio. There'll be something good on the FM. And so she picks up a photo. And who's in the photo, Bob? It's Steve and Sharon Carter. And he's got his arms wrapped around her. Steve, who's the pretty blonde? Your sister? And then she thinks, I hope. And Steve comes out. He's putting on a dress shirt. Who? Oh, Sharon. No, Sharon was a very close, very dear friend. We talked about getting married once, but our careers always seemed to get in the way. She died recently. It happened quite suddenly. And he takes the photo frame from her and he puts it face down in the rack. Almost like he's like, it's time for me to move on. So Byrne, she's frying up some eggs here. She says, boy, did I ever say the wrong thing? She must have meant a lot to him. The air's so thick in here, you can cut it. I better change the subject, quick. Did you hear about the big breakout at Rikers Island? You mean the Cobra's big escape? Which happened in Spectacular Spider-Man 46, which was not too long ago. No, that was last week. I'm talking last night. Oh, listen, maybe the news will have something about it. And Bob, she turns on the news and just so happens.
Yeah, it's all over the news, man.
Authorities are still baffled as to exactly how power was cut off to Rikers Island by the small band which made off with the notorious Mr. Hyde. What? First a Cobra breaks free and now Hyde too? No, what am I thinking of? I can't go chasing after everyone who breaks out of prison, especially now. I haven't slept in over 30 hours, and I have to get that ad job turned in today. Both Thor and Daredevil have more experience fighting Hyde. If they can't find him, then I'll offer my help to the police. And then Byrne comes out of the kitchen. Breakfast is served. Looks great. I hope you'll be joining me. I wouldn't miss it for the world. You know, I hate to brag, but I make a pretty mean breakfast. Of course, it's hard to ruin eggs. Is that a come on line, Bob? If you walked up to a girl and said, you know, I hate to brag, but I make a pretty mean breakfast.
Yeah, that would be very unbelievable. But I
They hurt my feelings, Bob.
Are you a good breakfast maker? But I don't.
Yeah, I did pretty good. Yeah,
you can hold your own. All right, good.
Yeah.
Good for you.
What do you want? Pancakes, French toast, some bacon, some. You know what? I know you're a bacon and sausage guy, right?
You lost me at bacon and sausage. Yes.
No, I see it. I've seen it done. All right. I'm sorry. She says, it's hard to ruin eggs. Oh, I've seen it done. No, Bernadette, I'd say you're a very accomplished cook. That's such a formal compliment, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, you're a very accomplished cook.
Bravo.
Tell me, do you do this for a living? No, kind sir. I'm a glass blower. Oh, really? Yes, really. Next page. One hearty breakfast, little small talk, and 30 minutes later, Steve Rogers is on the subway, Manhattan bound. Witnesses to the prison break say two of the raiders had slight French accents. The DA's office has entered the investigation. French. And soon at the plumber ad agency, I tell you, Steve, these storyboards are just the way I wanted them. I don't know who was luckier the day you talked that windbag plumber into giving you work, you or me. Steve. Hey, Rogers. Huh? Oh, sorry, Carmine. I guess my mind was wondering. Sure, you must have been up all night. Why don't you go get some shut-eye? But at this moment, sleep is the last thing on Steve Rogers' mind. A bizarre break-in carried off by a small band of men, and a couple of them had French accents. Maybe I'm just punchy from lack of sleep, but this is starting to sound like the kind of operation Batroc would be behind. From personal experience and the Interpol files I've read, I know such a prison break would be just enough of a challenge to appeal to that crazy Frenchman. And if Batroc's mixed up in this, then Captain America is definitely getting involved. And so he breaks into the closet, the janitor's closet, and what has he got underneath his suit, Bob?
He's got his uniform. He's got his Captain America uniform on.
And he's taking it off. He's almost like a Steve Rogers almost like a Clark Kent in a phone booth, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
No need to call the Avengers in on this. After all, the only thing I have are some vague hunches. The first order of business is to stop at the district attorney's office. If D.A. Tower is investigating this thing, he may be able to check up on Batroc's whereabouts. I sure hope no one stumbles across my street clothes in that janitor's closet where I hid them. And he's running up the stairs in the office building, and he gets to the roof. After all, with today's prices, I can't afford to lose too many suits or portfolios. And look at the detail of the cityscape here. You know, and then the rest of this page, the detail, right? You know, I mean, the pillars, the ceiling, the glasswork. And he goes all out.
And it's a mix of architecture too. I mean, it's not like your standard just slap the ruler on there and draw a couple high rises, right? I mean, he's got modern buildings, he's got more traditional, older 19th century buildings. I mean, he does the whole thing.
Yep. With that one last fleeting thought to his personal fortunes, Cap bolts across the rooftops of the city, his every moment concentrated towards carrying him to his destination, a certain downtown municipal building. So he's walking inside. If nothing else, having a little talk with Tower should put my mind at ease. I'm probably just getting paranoid in my old age. And then he's on an elevator, and he's standing out amongst the crowd because he's very tall, and everyone around him is kind of staring at him. But I can't shake this feeling that Batroc's behind this. And experience has taught me to go with my feelings. And they're whispering, wow, yeah, it's really him. Wasn't he running for president or something? Which was last issue. Another guy's thought bubble was like, well, what's he doing here? Could he have found out about those kickbacks? Shortly in the outer offices of the district attorney, and we see the secretary on the phone not paying attention. Shirley, I tell you, this job's a disappointment. I thought that being the DA's receptionist would be so glamorous. No, it's deadly dull. There's never the least bit of excitement. Pardon me, miss. Have to go, Cheryl. Someone just came in. Yeah, later. Yes, may I help you? Oh, I'd like to see the DA if he's not busy. I think I'm going to die.
Masterful.
Next page. At that very moment, just off the coast of Sandy Hook, New Jersey, a Roxxon LNG supertanker, the Queen of Egypt, speeds towards a new and controversial docking facility just outside of Perth Amboy. I know where that is, Bob. It's not too far from me.
Really?
Yeah, maybe like half hour, 45 minutes.
Wow.
Its cargo, 50,000 tons of liquefied natural gas. Pearson? Aye, sir. What in blazes is that thing approaching off the port bow? Oh, just a tug pulling a barge, sir. Well, warn them off. I don't want to risk collision. The New York papers are giving us the devil from the front pages, calling us a floating bomb. And then they're up on a flying bridge, and then down on the deck, the crew is all up against the railing, and they're all like hooting and hollering. And you see a woohoo and all right. And the Home Office is very anxious to prove them wrong, to show them that their new tanker and facility are safe. Huh? What could possibly be so fascinating about a barge to an experienced tanker crew? And the captain pulls up his binoculars. Oh, haha. It appears that the skipper of that tug has brought a friend along. I must say, he has excellent taste. And there is the Mademoiselle in a black one-piece bathing suit as she is sitting on a towel. And she's got her sunglasses on her head. And in the binocular look, she's holding up a sign. And he says, now what? She's holding up some sort of sign saying, we've been, what's the sign say, Bob?
Surprise, you've been boarded.
Boarded? She is right, mon ami. And there's Batroc on the next page. And standing over the first mate. And he's bowing. But allow me to introduce myself. I am Batroc de Lippe. Please forgive me for knocking out your first mate, but I did not want him to spoil your surprise. Oh, yes, that gentleman on the deck below is my associate, Monsieur Hyde. I am afraid he does not think so much of your crew. Ah, but I can see you are confused. Did you wonder how we got aboard your ship? Or should I say, our ship? It was quite simple. We used a little two-man submarine and came up on your starboard side while your attention was drawn elsewhere. And now, if you please, come with me. Soon in the radio room, and we have Mr. Hyde holding the captive, and Batroc getting on the ship to shore. Do not squirm, little man. Otherwise, I might have to break a few of your bones. Hello, ship to shore operator. This is the Queen of Egypt calling. Please connect me with the Monsieur Peace Benedict, the Director of Seagoing Operations at the Roxxon Corporation in New York. I will wait. Within minutes, in a plush suite of offices at One Roxxon Plaza. Again, look at the detail.
The whole skyline, right? In the background, outside the windows, beautiful.
Yeah. Plus the carpet.
Yeah, that's a nice shag.
Shag, baby. Yeah. And so we have Pierce Benedict on the phone standing up because he's outraged. You want what? Or you'll what? You can't be serious. Good Lord, man, that's unthinkable. The loss of life alone would be monstrous. $1 billion ransom? But we can't come up with that in such a short time. This is Hyde speaking, Benedict. Don't give me any excuses. Your board of directors controls several major Manhattan banks. You can raise the money. Now listen good. My partner and I are sailing this floating powder keg of yours right into the middle of New York Harbor. If we don't receive our ransom in time, We'll blow up this tanker and all of New York with it. For 5 awful minutes, Pierce Benedict listens to particulars of the ransom demands, feverishly jotting down details. And then, his voice choking with equal parts of fear and rage, he hurriedly places another call. Look, blast it, I don't care if he's in a meeting. I have to speak with the district attorney now. This is an emergency. And so, yes, this is Blake Tower. What? You're serious? Cap, your hunch was right. Batroc is involved, but it's much worse than we thought. Yes, go on, Benedict. What are their demands? How much? And they want a hostage as well? They want who? Well, yes, I'm sure we can get him. I know we can. Several hours later, the Queen of Egypt sails placidly under the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, entering a New York harbor, which is strangely bereft of all other seagoing traffic. There, Batroc, you see? The entire harbor has been cleared as per our orders. The only thing afloat out there is the ransom barge. I told you that Roxanne could raise the money. You were right once again, mon ami. Soon, all of that lovely oil money shall be ours. And look, they have even supplied the hostage we asked for. And sure enough, on the barge is Captain America tied to a pole, which is fastened to the middle of the deck, and his shield is laying in front of him, and his arms are behind his back. I would never have agreed to this if the city weren't in the gravest of danger. The tanker has the explosive potential of a small nuclear bomb. The slightest spark might set it off. I couldn't refuse any role which might save the lives of 10 million people. But I still don't like this. And why? Why did Hyde ask for me specifically as a hostage? What did he and Batroc have planned? Next page. Ever so gingerly, the mammoth tanker is brought alongside the tiny barge. He's tied up all right. Everything's clear. Then, so, mon capitaine, it's been a long time since last we met, eh? Not long enough, Batroc. Mon vieux, you cut me to the quick. Deal with them later, Batroc. Let's inspect the booty first. Yes, it's all here. Gold, platinum, precious metals, large piles of non-sequentially numbered dollars. We're wealthy, Batroc. I'd say we can even afford to have some fun with our hostage. You first, Batroc. After all, he was your idea. Batroc wanted me as a hostage? Odd. But I don't have time to wonder why just now. Shifting his weight slightly, Cap steps down hard on a certain part of the deck at his feet. And it's basically like a little switch, right? Mm-hmm. And it creaks, triggering a sudden, unexpected release of knockout gas. Mon Dieu, Jean, it is a trick. The Batroc's choked warning comes too late for his underlings. And then you see Cap getting off of his fake rope that was holding him back and putting in plugs. I hate using something as underhanded as this, but under the circumstances, it's best to take out these goons as quickly as possible. The gas will dissipate in a minute. In the meantime, these nose filters should keep me from being affected. And on the next page, we have a nice fight scene between Batroc and Cap. Sacre bleu! Your treacherous gases will not stop the great Batroc. No, not that accursed shield of yours again. I did not even see you grab it up. How could you possibly have time? Bang. And he is. Cap puts his shield up just as Batroc is coming with his 2 feet. Well, Batroc, either I'm getting faster or you're getting slower. And by the way, don't talk to me about treachery, mister. And then he gives a right cross and hits him in the face. The old Batroc I knew had been a mercenary, but he'd never tried to extort money by threatening the lives of 10 million people. And then a right uppercut. The Batroc I knew once said, men without honor deserve no mercy. Know what I mean? Now, where's that partner of yours? And basically it's from the cover, right?
Mhm.
We have a dark Mr. Hyde coming up right from behind. But Cap does not get surprised. He turns around, he punches him right in the face. All right, let's get this over with fast. I seem to remember you having a glass jaw, Hyde. The last time we fought, a good right cross put you out of action, which was Cap issue 152, Bob. Very good, Captain. Your memory is excellent, even if your reasoning is faulty. You see, I was but a shadow of myself when we battled before. This is not the case today. Huh? That is not the case at all. Ha ha ha! And he starts pummeling Cap like brute force, just nailing him over and over and over again. Surprised by Hyde's resilience, Captain America, his reflexes dulled from lack of sleep, falls before Hyde's bludgeoning attack. Mon Dieu! Hyde caught him off guard, but I do not believe it. And he goes up and he stops Hyde from pummeling him. No, Hyde, no! You do not want to kill him? Yes, I think I do. But surely there must be some better way. You are Mr. Hyde. You don't have to pummel him like some common thug. Yes, you're right. There is a better way. And the means of carrying it out are right at hand. Cap's unconscious. So on the next page, which is the last page, we see Cap tied to the front of the ship on the bow. So basically on both sides where the anchors would generally drop, there is a chain coming out from each side and holding him back. So his arms are stretched back behind him almost, where he's on the edge of the bow of the ship. For Captain America, time ceases to have meaning. There is only a thick, all-encompassing darkness, numbing his brain, a darkness which melts away very, very slowly. Oh, I certainly misjudge Hyde's might. He's much more powerful than the last time we fought. I didn't expect that. Well, hello, Captain. Welcome back to the living. For now. Huh? What the devil? You'll make a most colorful figurehead, Captain. No, don't try to break free. You'll find it quite impossible to snap those chains. But don't feel too bad. Look on the bright side. You'll have a ringside seat when I return this tanker by ramming it full speed into the docks of New York. And beneath the metal hull at Cap's back, 50,000 tons of liquefied natural gas slosh around in their tanks, straining to burst free in a holocaust of flame and death. Next, is New York burning? Find out next issue in Cold Fire.
Woo! I'm on the edge of my seat for Cold Fire, Rick.
So before we get to next issue, I want to get to the letters of the living legend. There is a letter printed in the back of the book, and one of them is from a young Kurt Busiek.
Wow.
Now,
Kurt.
You may ask, who's Kurt Busiek?
Rick, who's Kurt Busiek?
Well, you wouldn't ask because you know.
I was trying to play along.
Oh, okay. Kurt is a longtime writer of comics.
Mm-hmm.
He has been around for quite some time. He's been on Avengers. He's been on many different things. Currently, he is doing a series called The Marvels, which does feature Captain America.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's worked extensively with Alex Ross in the past as well.
Yes, he has.
So
it's interesting. We got a letter from a very young Kurt Busiek. Should I read it?
Yes, please.
Oh, by the way, I did reach out to Kurt to see if he wanted to be a guest on the show.
And I'm presuming since he's not scheduled.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he's a rather busy man and cannot join us on the show. But I tried, Bob. I did try.
I know you did.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to him about the Marvels. All right, so here's a letter. Dear Raj, John, and Joe, Captain America 247 was technically just and he's talking about their first issue of when they came on Captain America. It was another well-written, well-drawn comic book, clearing up any inconsistency about the main characters. But aside from that, Dum-Dum, Fury, Cap's old shield, Baron Strucker, what is this, Old Home Week? The evocative nostalgia, plus the bit of the bus, made the issue a glorious reaffirmation of Captain America and all he ought to be. Stan Lee thawed Cap out in Avengers 4. Steve Englehart did it again in the 70s. And now, maybe, Captain America has come out of his iceberg for good. Congratulations.
Bravo.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. All right, so issue 252. I think I forgot to mention this in the last one. Cover price, Bob. Cover price of comics back in 1980, at least for Marvel, 50 cents.
$2, man.
Mm-hmm. 5 dimes.
That was like an extended video game at the arcade. $2.
It's true.
Yeah.
So on the cover, again, same corner box, same logo. And it is the vessel. And you have Batroc kicking off Captain America. He's flying backwards with his shield out of his hand. Behind Batroc is Mr. Hyde in his classic green cloak. And just in case you didn't know, the vessel they're on says danger, liquid natural gas. And the caption reads, Cap battles both Batroc and Mr. Hyde. It's a blockbuster. But do you notice anything strange about that caption, Bob?
I do, actually.
What's
I
that?
had to like think for myself for a second, but did they spell Mr. Hyde wrong?
You're messing with me, right?
Yeah.
Yes. They spelled blockbuster wrong.
I think it was a trademark issue for Blockbuster.
Is that why?
Yeah, the video stores back.
Okay. No, they actually spelled Batroc wrong. They have a K at the end instead of a C.
What is up with that? Is this for the foreign market, or what was that?
I don't know.
Albania? They spell it differently there.
All right. So we have on the opening splash page, we're back to where Cap was fastened to the front of the ship, and standing on the bow above him are Batroc and Mr. Hyde. Mr. Hyde is holding Cap's shield in his right hand as if it was like a frisbee, because he's got such a big hand. And hanging from those chains is Captain America. I have to say, Bob, I bet just hanging from those chains is pretty painful. Like, our body's not meant to do that.
Yeah, it could take some strain. It's a very sort of crucifixion looking pose.
It is because his arms are stretched out, but actually they're stretched behind him too. I mean, that's got to be painful.
Yeah.
Right. So we have, again, Roger Stern, John Byrne, Joseph Rubinstein, John Costanza, Bob Sharon, and Jim Salicrup as the creative team. When the famed mercenary Batroc the Leaper joined with the criminal known as Mr. Hyde to hijack a Roxxon supertanker for $1 billion ransom, how much was it, Bob?
$1 billion.
That's right. And both Bob and I put our pinkies up to our lips. And $1 billion back in 1980 was,
yeah,
right?
It's a good amount of cash. Yeah.
I mean, it is now. So the fact that 40 years ago. I mean, that must have been like the most you could think of. $1 zillion.
That's right.
The wily Frenchman suggested that they also demand a very special hostage, Captain America. Your scheme was brilliant, Batroc. Our guest makes such a colorful figurehead. Ha 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 ha! Laugh all you want, Hyde. If I don't stop you, somebody else will. Hyde only laughs harder and harder. And as Captain America strains at his bonds, so 1,000 tons of liquid natural gas gurgle and roil beneath the metal hull at his back, just waiting to erupt. Next page, it's a double splash. The top half is one image of the barge and Roxxon ship floating in the harbor of New York. So you see a lot of detail in the cityscape on both sides of the harbor. And then the bottom half are 6 panels of what's going on. Waiting to bring back fiery death and destruction to all of New York City. For now, the jumbo LNG supertanker sits in the midst of a strangely deserted New York harbor, a giant floating bomb, dwarfing the attendant barge that sails along the starboard side, the barge which houses Batroc's floating headquarters. Less than 24 hours ago, Batroc used that barge to free Hyde from the Rikers Island prison complex, and now it stands ready to transport the duo and their ill-gotten ransom to safety. Did you notice anything interesting on the rooftop here, Bob?
I do. I noticed the sign, but it doesn't connect with me. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. So one of the billboards, well, it's the only billboard that you can see here, and it's written. It says, "No shots, no school. It's the law."
What does that mean? I was thinking of. I love the fact that it's this beautiful, splash, right? You've got the ship in the harbor, you've got the skylines and the background and the foreground, you've got the sort of narrative text, but then in tiny little letters you see ha 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 from Hyde,
Yeah.
in tiny little letters right in the middle of all that picturesque scenery. I love that. Oh, all right. No shots. All right. Makes sense now.
Yeah. So back in the late 70s, there was a New York City Department of Health had basically were saying, like, you need your vaccinations.
I'll be darned.
No shots, no school. And actually, Muhammad Ali did a TV commercial, like a little PSA.
Yeah.
And so back in 1980, this was still an issue a couple of years later that, if you weren't vaccinated, you couldn't go to school. Then it was the law. Funny how things come full circle.
Yeah. Bouffant hairdos, bell bottoms, and school vaccinations.
Yeah.
Wow.
But before the two take to flight, "This little toy of yours fascinates me, Captain. I think I'll break it before I depart. And you and the ship are blown sky high." "You mean you'll try, Hyde? Better men than you have failed." "He speaks the truth, Hyde. Nothing seems to affect his shield." "Nonsense. It can't resist me. A piece of metal this size can't possibly. I've fought Thor. I can't. Blast." Unable to even bend the mighty shield, Hyde hurls it over the tanker's port side, inadvertently lodging it deep in the side of a second barge, where Batroc's men are faithfully gathering up the $1 billion ransom for transfer. And on the tanker deck, "I was a fool to waste my time on that gaudy trinket. Come, Batroc, we still have much to do on the bridge." As you say, mon ami, there is much we still must do. Unnoticed by Hyde, Batroc nonchalantly gives a gentle kick to the port side anchor chain release. Next page, we see Cap, all of a sudden one side getting slack, with sudden consequences. What? There's suddenly slack on one of my chains. If only it'll keep up. No good. The ratchet lock was kicked back in. All I got was a couple extra feet of chain. I guess I'll have to make that do. Pulling himself over to the starboard side, Cap begins a painful maneuver. Got to scrape the links across the bow and try to weaken one of them. For long, agonizing minutes, Cap strains to hold himself in place and work at his bonds. And then, that one link looks like it might be ready to give. Good. The wheel gave. Now, if I could just bend it enough. Come on, blast you, bend. Bend. It bends. And with a grateful sigh of relief, Cap flips the chain loose from the ruptured link. In seconds, he is free of one of his bonds. So, Bob, I want to take a moment to appreciate the art on this page. So, Byrne has this layout here where we see Cap struggling, and then in the corresponding panel underneath, we see what's going on with the chain. And that happens for 3 panels. So we get to see Cap 3 panels, we get to see the chain 3 panels. It almost reminds me of Frank Miller, Daredevil, around this time.
Really?
Yeah. So I can see how Frank Miller was influenced by Byrne in stuff like this. And for our listeners out there, let me know if you think the same. I know there's a lot of listeners out there that love John Byrne. And I'm certainly up there because, back in the summertime, Bob, we did the, actually, no, it was spring. It was, it was March Madness. We did the best Captain America artists, and John Byrne was right up there. And I think he made the Final Four, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was beaten out by Jack Kirby.
Probably so.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So he certainly has his fan base out there, but I'm curious if and for those out there who love Frank Miller, now Frank Miller was doing Daredevil just a little after this, but I could see in some of the layouts of what's going on here. Now Frank Miller was also, he was around this time. He did a few covers for Captain America. And by the way, if you go back and listen to that Joe Rubinstein interview that we had, which was episode 8, Joe talks about his working with Frank Miller on some of those covers for Captain America and some of the, how he helped get Frank his start. It was an interesting conversation. Mm-hmm. All right, so we go to this page, the next page, and now Cap's free of one chain, but he's still on the other one. So he has to free himself. Now the hard part begins. There's not enough slack on this side to pull the same trick. I just have to pray the leverage will be enough. It has to be. Hyde said he'd crash this tanker into the docks and blow it up. If that happens, the city doesn't stand a chance. I remember what that Roxxon official, Pierce Benedict, told D.A. Tower and me about the danger of this ship. Okay, Benedict, we know it's dangerous. How dangerous? Well, first, let me assure you that the Queen of Egypt is our newest LNG supertanker. It has all the lazy safety features, but, well, it has the explosive potential of a small nuclear device. A small nuclear device? He said it so matter-of-factly. What kind of man could be a party to bringing a ship like this within even 100 miles of a populated area? The slightest leak, the tiniest spark, could cause this tanker to blow in an instant. And the initial explosion would just be the start. The heat created by the blast would cause a firestorm which would engulf the whole city. Millions would die in a matter of minutes. There would be no place to run from. The terrific heat and fire. All of New York, everyone I know and love would be horrible, would die horribly. And again, like the chain, we see a split panel. We see Cap struggling, and then on the other side, to the right of it, we see what he's describing. We see the explosion and then how it would continue in the city of New York and then some of his loved ones.
Yeah, and I mean, it has all of the sort of, the look and feel of that nuclear holocaust fear.
Which was pretty big in 1980.
Yeah, sure was. You're right.
Yeah, I think what we used to do, Bob, and again, dear listeners, we ask you if this is something that you miss from our early days, or you're like, hey guys, don't sweat it. Don't do the extra work. You're doing great. Don't worry about it. Which I hope you say. But we used to do, Bob, in the beginning, we used to talk about in the year that we did the issue, what was going on in the world at that time. Right?
You sure did, yeah.
Because I remember talking about nuclear holocaust and people worried about that. And we talked about the movie The Day After.
Right?
Yeah, right. Remember, we used to do that in the first, 8, 9 issues, something like that.
It did. It did. Sometimes it's useful because it contextualizes what was on, the public consciousness at the time, right? Because any good author writing a narrative wants to connect to what people are thinking about and somehow making the connection between the real world, even if it's just tangentially, indirectly. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think it's often relevant. So 1980, Rick, what was going on in 1980? That was a big year. Do you remember what the top movie was in 1980?
I don't remember, but I would say probably Empire Strikes Back.
You're right. You're absolutely right. The Empire Strikes Back, top grossing movie that year. Big year. As I said, CNN was launched that year. Also, the Far Side comic strip was launched in.
Did you really look this stuff up?
It's all up here.
Or you just remember 1980?
It's all up here, buddy. It's all up here. Big year. Ronald Reagan elected president.
Yeah, that was huge. Yeah.
So the Iran hostage crisis, of course, precipitated that in many ways. So yeah, it's a lot of interesting stuff in 1980.
That's true.
Yeah. Will Ferrell was born, I think, in 1980.
I'm older than Will Ferrell?
I think he might be. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He's partied hard. So he's earned that body.
Yeah, we probably look the same age. All right.
Yeah.
Next page. So Cap's struggling against this chain. No, that must not happen. I won't let it happen. I won't. Fear and outrage well up in this man's soul. Fear for the lives of millions of New Yorkers. Outrage at being trapped here, unable to do more than strain and pull. Every muscle, every nerve ending, screaming as he desperately tries to break free. The chain that binds him is cold, hard steel. By rights, it should be impossible for him to break. By rights, he should give up. But Captain America never gives up. With every bit of power in his body, Cap gives a mighty tug. Miraculously, the chain separates. Well, that's the disadvantage to breaking the chain. He then falls backwards and he hits his head on the hull. And then tragedy. Stunned, the Avenger plummets from the bow of the huge supertanker, like legendary Icarus falling from the heavens. Who's Icarus, Bob?
Nice. That was, if I'm not mistaken, that was the son of Icarus. Icarus is the guy that glued the wax wings together, right? And his father said, "Don't do it. Don't get too close to the sun." Yeah, and he disobeyed, and he just couldn't help himself, like all of us. trying to soar higher and higher. But the wax melted, of course, and he fell into the ocean.
That's true.
Rip Icarus.
Yes, that is a classic tale. Barely conscious, he hits the water hard, very hard. And in seconds, the one man who might possibly be able to save New York from total destruction sinks beneath the waves, just like a stone. All right, so next page. Actually, we have a couple pages here of ads. Remember the old classified ads you'd find in the comics? Yeah. Oh, then look, here's an ad to sell grit. You know, Bob, they're looking for a few good boys and girls who would like to earn their own spending money, earn neat prizes, and gain practical business experience.
I'm always looking to win neat prizes and gain practical business experience. So even at my age, so maybe I'll look them up.
So the next page we get to, and we get a nice little flashback of what's been going on with Mr. Hyde. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Mammoth tanker, we see Mr. Hyde at the captain's wheel, and then Batroc a few feet behind him, resting his butt on a console with his legs stretched out. Yes, Batroc, as an associate, you have been most helpful in the operation, and, of course, your hostage choice was a stroke of genius. I couldn't have done better myself. Yes, I thought you would like it. And then he thinks to himself, the pig. It is bad enough that Hyde tricked me into working with him, but he does not even consider me a foot partner. I still remember the defeat Captain America handed me in our previous encounter. Having him at my mercy now is most satisfying. Yes, I remember. At the time, I had been Mr. Hyde for too long, without renewing the chemicals which give me my power. When I first fought Captain America, my strength was just a fraction of my true might. He easily bested me. What issue was that, Cat?
That was in 152.
That's right. After that ignominious defeat, he just left me there, tied up with that fool, the Scorpion, a prisoner for the police to find. But as I regained consciousness, I reverted to my human form. Once again, I was Dr. Calvin Zabo. I easily slipped from the ropes, leaving the Scorpion for the police. I was angry. I wanted vengeance on that blasted Avenger. But for that, I needed certain chemicals to duplicate my Hyde formula. Foolishly, I broke into a nearby pharmacy, and I was caught in the act. Lacking the funds to hire the proper lawyers, I was tried and convicted, and so Calvin Zabo spent 6 months in prison. 6 months during which my former partner, the Cobra, bounced in and out of prison as a member of the Serpent Squad. And now that was in Captain America 163, and then again in 180 through 182. Even when I rejoined the Cobra, he betrayed me. He left me rot in Riker Island, and he's the sole being who knows I am Calvin Zabo. And that was in Spectacular Spider-Man 46.
Question.
Yeah,
Rick, I'm a bit hazy on Mr. Hyde. But if he needs the chemicals to transform, how was he Mr. Hyde in Rikers when Batroc broke him out?
Bob,
I don't know.
You were not supposed to ask such questions.
I'm not that familiar with Mr. Hyde.
The answer is comics.
Oh, okay. Got it. All right. Okay. I didn't know if I missed a crossover event or something was going on. Oh, it's Rikers, though. Yeah, we all know what gets into Rikers. You can get anything into Rikers.
It's comics.
Smokes, Playboy, Hyde chemicals. I've watched enough. What's that show? Law and Order. I know what's going on.
Dun, dun. All right. You are strangely quiet, monsieur. I was thinking of a man I once foolish enough to trust, Batroc. A man who must suffer for his treachery. Look out there, Batroc, New York. Just a few nights ago, the Cobra fought Spider-Man out there. I know Cobra. He's a creature of habit. He'd still be holed up in the city somewhere. All I have to do is set these controls. Let this tanker crash into the docks. An explosion will do the rest. No more New York. No more Cobra. You cannot be serious. That was just a threat, a bluff to get the money from Oxon and bedevil the captain. You should know me better by now, Batroc. I am quite serious. And you should know better, monsieur, than turn your back on Batroc. Signal your men to finish loading the ransom and clear out of the harbor. We'll escape in my mini-sub. No! Taking money from a thieving oil cartel like Roxanne is one thing, but mass murder is quite different matter. Batroc shall have no part of it. And he does. He comes up and he kicks Hyde in the back of the head. Just last night, Batroc attacked Hyde with a similar kick, a kick meant to paralyze. It failed. Today, the kick is deadlier, meant to kill. Do you think it worked, Bob?
I'm not putting my money on it, Rick.
You would say no. Next page, as we turn it, it also fails. And we see Batroc getting thrown out with great velocity out of the flying bridge to broken glass. Sacre bleu! Fool, didn't you learn anything yesterday? And we see Hyde chasing after him, but he's not going through a door, man. He's just ripping open the steel wall. He's a strong man. Hyde is your better. Hyde will always be your better. And Batroc's on the ground, and Hyde's about to leap on top of him. I still cannot believe the speed he possesses, but speed and strength alone do not bring victory. I do not belittle your power, monsieur, but even the mightiest can be caught off guard. And he does. He kicks Hyde and knocks him back. And now we shall see who truly is the superior fighter. The gloves are off. N'est pas. Did I get that right, Bob?
That's nice. That's nice.
I never took French, Bob. I had to look all this up.
Very nice. Love Google.
Because otherwise I would have been n'est ce pas? Because that's how it's printed.
That is how it's written. Yeah.
It's N-EST-CEPAS.
Yes.
Now, for our Canadian listeners, just want to let you know.
Excusez-moi.
Yes. I would have read that n'est ce pas. But I looked it up and it's n'est-ce pas.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice.
Now, you're saying very nice, but our Canadian listeners will be like, you still got it wrong.
You know what, though? You'll be like, here's the thing, though. French Canadian is different than, traditional French. So you can always make that argument that you were speaking traditional, French, and French Canadians have it wrong. So, or you could say, if they say you had it right, and then you could say, well, I was speaking French Canadian, and then all the French listeners will, tell you that you had it wrong, and you can say, but I was speaking French Canadian, our northern neighbors. And it's a win-win.
Win-win. But even as Batroc and Hyde square off on the ransom barge below, we see Captain America's shield. Remember where Hyde threw it and he paled it into the side of the barge. Come on, Bob, you're wasting your time. No, it's about to give. Whoa! Watch it, will you? Geez, you've got all the grace of a wounded gazelle. Say what you want, Terry, but I'm the guy with the shield. Remember that. Yeah, well, it's a nice piece of work. Look, it's not even dented. From the stores, the bars tell It can't be dented. He claims it's from some sort of secret super metal or something. You don't believe that, do you? Come on. We're supposed to be guarding the mini sub. Hey, did you just hear something? And you see some red gloves coming up behind the two of them as they're talking. And there's a big sound effect. What's the sound effect, Bob? What? Bob, I'm not a letterer, but if I wanted to be a whisper, I would write it very small, very tiny, in little things.
Oh, you're
These
not
are
baiting
big,
me. No.
huge, fat letters. THWOK. I mean, they're not, they're so big. They have their own panel, Bob. Look at it.
Listeners, I want to go on record here that Rick's trying to bait me into getting in trouble with my sleeping wife and son. And I'm not going down that road, folks.
All right.
Again.
Yeah, fair enough. Apparently, 16 episodes is enough, huh? You're like, that's it. I've learned my lesson. All right. It's big. It says thwack. And then you see Cap thinking to himself as he's taking his shield and putting it back on his left arm like it's a missing appendage. Sorry about the rear attack, boys, but I don't have time to waste. Besides, I don't think the little meeting of the minds will give you anything more than a couple of bumps on your heads. Now, I have a little business to settle with your boss and Mr. Hyde. So a couple comments here on this, Bob. Mm-hmm. Right? Very punny. Right? Meeting of the minds.
Right.
All right. Cap's got a little sense of humor. The other thing is, he says, sorry about the rear attack, boys. I think maybe I missed it on the last issue, but this is like the second time in 2 issues where he's kind of apologized for doing something that he considers not on the up and up.
Mm-hmm. Ungentlemanly, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
It was a sneak attack, and he feels bad about it.
Yeah.
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of the time in we were talking about the origin of the flag smasher.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And oh gosh, that's going back. I can't remember. So we're going back to episode 10, Bob. We covered Captain America 312 and then 321 through 322. So that was the origin of Flag Smasher. And that struck me where Mark Grunwald had Cap struggling with coming up behind one of the ultimatum agents, and he knocked him out from behind so he could get into his uniform and steal it and get on a glider, and he felt bad about that. Remember that?
Yeah,
we had a little conversation about that.
Right, it just doesn't seem like a fair fight, right? Cap's a stand-up guy,
and I remember saying like, oh well, Mark Grunwald gets it, but here's Roger Stern doing the same thing.
Yeah,
so various writers have looked at the character and been like, had him struggle with anything other than what do they say in boxing? The Queen's, what are the rules?
you know
what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
right?
I know. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like certain types of fisticuffs. We have
no hitting below the belt.
Right. I mean, that's the whole reason we won the War of Independence, right? Is because, the redcoats came and they all stood in order, and whereas, we, the blue coats, were all like, oh, we're going to hide behind the trees and shoot you from,
right?
know.
I know, but it's also, it's the distinction between, and I think this is a made up distinction, but it's sort of the popularized distinction between a soldier and a secret agent, right? A SHIELD, a Nick Fury, right? who would have no compunction whatsoever about sneaking around in the shadows and hitting someone from behind or shooting someone from behind, right? Because that's what a secret agent does, right? But not a soldier. A soldier, fights honorably face to face across the open space. Of course, that distinction, disappeared, centuries ago, but we still have it in popular consciousness. And I think that's the sort of distinction Cap makes, is that he is a stand-up, gentlemanly, fair fight sort of guy.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Also, I want to point out that I want to learn more about Bob and Terry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would be open to a miniseries or a one shot that explores Bob and Terry's work for Batroc. So
this is their first appearance.
It is, yeah,
Yeah.
So hope springs eternal in me. So.
Yeah, maybe he'll go into the both Bob and Terry will be introduced in the MCU, and then this book will now all of a sudden be worth 10 times as much.
Right? Yeah.
Springing up the net ladder, Cap is up the side of the tanker in seconds. What the devil? It sounds like there's some sort of fight going on up there. And sure enough, great Scott! Hyde has Batroc on the ropes. He's crushing the light out of him. Hyde, no! Strange. For a moment there, I thought I heard Captain America's voice. But that's impossible, isn't it, Batroc? The good captain is helpless as you are. And he's squeezing the middle of Batroc with his huge hands. Stop! Stop? Why, certainly. As soon as I've broken you in two, I think, my arm! And it was Cap's shield ricocheting off of his shoulder. The man said, "Stop, Hyde. That seems like a wise decision. You free? But how?" And then Batroc jumps out of leaps out of the way. Perhaps he had some help, no? Merci, Capitan. This is one I owe you. Bah, it doesn't matter how you got free. I beat you unconscious and chained you before. I can do it again. And he raises his fist and goes at Cap. But Cap, on the next page, he moves very quickly out of the approaching fist. Yep, I'll admit that you certainly took me by surprise earlier, Hyde. But I'm on my guard now. You won't take me by the same way twice. Fool, you cannot evade me for long. You're just an ordinary man. But I am Hyde. Hyde! Well, then here is an interesting lesson for you. Never underestimate the ordinary man. And he karate chops him in the back of the neck as he was leaning forward. But just then, who came to Cap's side there, right? We got Batroc. And he comes and he kicks Hyde in the face. Very true, mon ami. And it is not always custom of your countrymen to band together to fight the common evil. Batroc, so you still want a part of this fight? But of course, you did not think I was willing to let this madman exterminate New York, did you? Why did you think I asked for you as a hostage? But he then gets hit by Hyde. That question had entered my mind. I never trusted Hyde for a moment, and I feared that he might try, but I knew that if anyone could find a way to stop him, it was you. So, voila, I connived him to have brought you here. Batroc, the next time you need my help against Hyde, give me a little warning first. Right now, it looks like everything depends on us. Shut up. You try doing this. You want to take over, Bob? You can take over. I gotta tell you, my voice could use a rest.
I know.
You want to do these voices? You want to read all these words?
I can't do French like you can do French. I just appreciate the expressions on your face.
You in instant. God. You insignificant fool idiots. All right. You insignificant idiots. Hyde has the strength of 12 men. Then we shall have to hit you several times, no? No, you are nothing to me. And he does. He swats Batroc away. He's not bluffing. Our only hope is to keep him off balance and try to wear him down. So Cap hits him with the shield in his back. For too long, Hyde has allied himself with weaklings and traitors, but no more. Hyde needs no one but himself. Heads up, Batroc, coming your way. Back and forth across the decks of the supertanker, Cap and Batroc strike out at Hyde, always trying to maneuver him away from the volatile LNG tanks. Like a well-honed machine, they attack again and again and again. And they're hitting them from all sides. But then, Batroc, look out. Ha! I knew one of you would get too close eventually. And he hits Batroc in the back of the head pretty hard. And what's the sound effect for that?
I thought he hit him with a can of Spam.
I know. The sound effect is spam.
Spam. Yeah.
S-P-A-M. Spam, 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 spam. Spamless spam, spam, spam. I want some spam. All right. Sorry for those who aren't Mighty Python fans.
And now for something completely different.
Yes. That was my little take from the spam skit. You know, the funny thing is, Bob, and we're well into this podcast, right? Guys, if you're still listening, love you. But sometimes, and by the way, Roger Stern, we have to be careful. Like two issues is enough. He writes a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on the page and a lot of reading. Mm-hmm. It takes a long time to get through Roger Stern issues. I will mental note moving forward when we do the Byrne Blood issues. But sometimes we get on a little bit tangents, right? Mm-hmm. And so speaking of Monty Python, I sometimes think this, you know, you ever watch Monty Python's Flying Circus? Like the original episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then they would go off on tangents and then they would strike to an audience and the audience would say, get on with it. Sometimes I think our listeners are doing that. Sometimes I think our listeners are like, just get on with the issue.
Yes. Yes, that's probably true. It's also the listeners probably don't realize that I'm actually not wearing any clothes and I'm sitting on a piano bench.
Yes. I don't like spam. So with a look of a merciless glee on his face, Hyde moves in, ready to deliver a killing blow. But before he can, that's a nice picture of the shield coming in to Hyde's face, nailing him. No, keep away from him. Come on, mister, stay on your feet. Pull yourself together. I'll handle Hyde. You think you could stand up to me with that shield, do you? Very well. Hyde shall use a weapon too. And the words spew from Hyde's mouth in a choking, brutal snarl. His mind now all but overwhelmed by his consuming hatred. Addled by his rage, he rips free the nearest object, and he does. He's pulling off this like pipe from the machinery behind him, as if to like use the pipe to like, you know, pummel Cap. But he's inundated by a high pressure stream of liquefied natural gas. What does Cap say? Good Lord. And almost instantly, An elaborate emergency valve system shuts down the leak, but not before the sub-zero liquid freezes the very water vapor around Hyde. So he's got like this white frozen coat around him. And Cap says he's still moving. And he's still alive under all of that. Encased in the icy substance, Hyde's monstrous form slips away from Cap's grasp, tumbling backward over the side of the tanker. And he falls into the river. Hyde! Now, just minutes ago, Hyde threatened the lives of every man, woman, and child in New York City. Now, he himself is caught up in a death trap created by his own savage rage. But Captain America does not hesitate for a moment. A life in danger, he acts. Desperately, he dives after Hyde. Again and again. But it's no use. The harbor water is too murky. I've lost him. And Cap resurfaces from the water that he dove into. I can't find him, Batroc. We better radio the harbor patrol. Batroc? But the wily leaper is no longer aboard the tanker. He is already several hundred yards away. Bloop, bloop.
Oh, man. Batroc.
On the next page, we see Cap in the surface of the water. Why, that's slippery. He's getting away. And with Roxxon's billion-dollar ransom, no doubt. I should have expected this. Despite his code of honor, Batroc's still a mercenary. I can't let him get away with this. So then we cut into the inside of his barge, and we see in that estate room, Batroc with the Monique, right? And this time she's wearing basically the same dress with the high slit, but it's just green this time. And aboard the deceptively innocent-looking barge, it is so heavy. And she's holding up a gold bar. But of course, Monique, gold is hardly light. My little plan worked out well, did it not, mon chéri? New York is still safe. Monsieur Hyde is defeated. And we have all this lovely money. Come, let us celebrate. And he grabs her face as if to kiss her. But then, what's the sound effect, Bob?
Boom!
Well, that one wasn't whispered. Nam de Jian. I have no idea what that means.
It's a good question, but Shin is dog, right? So, name of the dog, or
I don't know. I don't speak French.
I think it's like son of a gun or something like that.
There's a big explosion, right? So, mon Dieu, don't tell me that the tank blew up after all. No, what am I thinking? The explosion would have been much, much worse. So he's running up the stairs to get to the top of his vessel. And racing up the stairs from his private quarters deep within the barge, Batroc soon confronts the problem. Oh, no. Now, on the last page of this story, he sees the tug boat sinking with his crew. The tug, she is sinking. But how can this be? It is Hyde's mini sub, the one he and I boarded the tanker in. Oh, no. Do not tell me. And who comes out of the mini sub, opening up the hatch, popping out with a big smile? Ahoy, Batroc. Sorry I had to torpedo your plans, but there's still the matter of $1 billion you owe Roxxon Oil. Torpedo his plans. That's kind of funny.
He is a funny dude.
Otherwise, I might have been tempted to let you go. Oh, I wouldn't try anything funny just now. You see, I've radioed the Coast Guard, And you're surrounded, mon ami. And sure enough, from all sides come the Coast Guard. I do not believe it. You've ruined me again, Capitan. Oh, well, I guess those are the fortunes of war. C'est la vie. And he puts his arms up to shrug. Next issue. Should old acquaintance be forgot? Now, Bob, there is some pages left of this.
There is.
We're not going to do it this episode because we've run a little long.
Yeah.
But there's a bonus, right? There's a few pages here, the life and times of Captain America, and it gets into a page of a little bit of his background from his history in World War II to being with the Avengers to being his personal life. Then the next page is the apartment of Steve Rogers. Then we get into friends and neighbors of Steve Rogers. Then we get into a page of partners with Steve Rogers. So I tell you what, why don't we cover that when we do issue 250, which is a standalone?
It's a great idea.
Right?
Yeah.
We'll revisit this in 252, right?
Yeah.
Is that a plan? Is that a promise?
Yeah, it makes sense.
All right, Bob. How was my French, mon ami? Was it okay?
It was very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Why do I sound like Yogi the Bear? But I do.
Would you like a picnic basket?
It's a very good picnic basket.
Hey,
boo boo.
Hey, boo boo. Of course, when I hear myself do French, getting back to Monty Python, I think of John Cleese in the Quest for the Holy Grail as the French taunterer.
Yeah, right.
Now go away, or I will taunt you a second time.
Oh man, that's some
Your father smelt of elderberry. Your mother was a hamster. That's my favorite.
That's good stuff.
Yeah,
I can't wait till my son is old enough that I can introduce him to Monty Python.
You could totally introduce him to Holy Grail.
Yeah,
Holy Grail's not bad. Right?
No, I just don't know if he'll get the humor yet. I think.
I think he would.
He might.
Yeah, my kids love it.
Yeah,
I think they have seen Holy Grail more than any other movie, and once a year at least they say, "Hey, Dad, can we watch that again?"
Wow, that's
and
awesome.
I'm like, "All right, yeah,
maybe I'll give it a try. This weekend."
Yeah, no, it's great stuff.
Yeah.
All right, next issue, Bob. We need to finish the United States of Captain America miniseries. So issue 5, we're going to cover of that miniseries. We will go through that issue and give our thoughts overall of the series and what we thought of that series. We'll do that in episode 59, which comes out next week.
Wow, I can't believe we're already at issue 5.
I know.
It seems just yesterday we were looking forward to issue 1 hitting the rack. So,
yep,
good things.
So we'll cover that next. And Bob, I got to say, as always, I've enjoyed wrapping cup with you, mon ami. I am going to miss speaking in this outrageous accent.
We're going to definitely have to do another French character very, very soon.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes. Oh, I can't wait to listen to this one in its final form, folks.
All right. Well, he's Bob Lucius. I'm Rick Verbanis, and you've been listening to the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.
We're having a bit too much fun with the accents.